Now, the topic for tonight is drink and how it actually affects presentations, speaking, our actual sense of this confidence building, and how event organisers pick venues with bars in them, and how people fall victim to them, thinking that, they can go out and have their hours, and the next day they can have a trouble-free day with their presentations or who they've got to chat to or anything else, and also the impact on the voice. So
yeah, definitely. And also, because I was talking to you yesterday about this, Cindy, are we recording yet?
We are now recording.
Okay, brilliant. There's a thing I was telling Cindy about, Ian, yesterday, and everybody else listening, hello and welcome to this blab. My definition, I can do Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? When I'm absolutely stoned. I can do that easily. I do it live on the radio sometimes, and people go, ooh, that was daring. No, because I can do it really well, and she is a thistle sifter. She has a sieve of sifted thistles and a sieve of unsifted thistles. That's because she is a thistle sifter. However, I can't say Piccadilly line if I've been drinking. It goes Piccadilly line, Piccadilly. I can say Piccadilly Circus, but I can't say Piccadilly line. So that's my test of myself if I've drunk too much to work. And then I have to walk a lot and walk it off and eat it off and drink lots of coffee to get rid of it. Because the problem is, and I can't name them here, I named them to Cindy yesterday, but there are some very big names in show business. Actually, no. I am going to name two of them, because last night I was watching some pop music videos. Ronnie Wood did a series of interview things with Paul McCartney, and you can see they are both totally trashed. And Paul McCartney is talking like this, right, this is how we did this song. And Ronnie would say, oh, that's really good, Paul. Yeah, it's really good. Now, they can get away with it because their celebrity status is so high, and they've been at the top of the tree for a long, long time. So people think, oh, it's fine. Okay.
That's basically what Oliver Reed was doing then.
Yeah, Oliver Reed did it all the time, and he got away with it all of the time. But he was actually a very powerful, bullying, nasty person, but he could really put a bullying, nasty character across, which is what he was doing all the time, so he could get away with it. I can't name another actor I've worked with because he's still alive, basically. A big star that lots of people would know. I'll tell you another time, Cindy. I'm not going to name him here. And he would turn up on set when we were filming at about 9 o'clock. And I and all the rest of the cast had been waiting there since 7:30, totally sober. And he'd turn up at 10, stagger into makeup, and get made up, and he was into his costume, and then wander onto the set about 11:30, and then we started filming. So he lost us about 4 or 5 hours every day when he turned up like that.
4 or 5 hours.
Literally.
So that has quite a bit of an impact on the bottom line then, eventually.
Yeah, for the film company, and it was a very, very high budget film. I'll tell you later, Cindy. I'm not going to say it in here. Sorry, Ian, I'm not going to say it here.
But it's interesting you said that you've got your drunk catchphrase, or your safety net, I should say, because I've got a similar one, which is if I want to tell a particular joke, I know why my brain thinks that I'm still sober enough to chat. But the minute I want to come out with this joke, I know full well that I'm crossing that line that actually I need to now shut up.
Actually, you're right there. Here's a comment for everyone who thinks they can be a great speaker. I mean, I know Ian's a good speaker, definitely. So's Frank. You know, they've just done it for so long, they can't get it wrong. But people say to me when I'm training them, all I need to do to be a good speaker is to be confident, isn't it? No, every drunk who comes out of a pub and shouts at a policeman and gets arrested is very, very confident. No, there's a lot more to speaking than confidence.
Because there's a lot of people that will use a drink to Dutch courage. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, exactly.
Have you ever had to deal with that one as well, Ian? Have you heard of that with some of your the guys that you've taught as well? Them saying, "Well, I have a quick stiff whiskey."
Yeah, definitely. It's a great, courage builder, and people do think they can get up and speak, but with what purpose? And I think that they forget that it's not just about standing up; it's actually about creating an impact of some form. And when they do that, the impact is usually negative.
Yeah. At my wedding, right? My wedding was a huge North Yorkshire society wedding, right? Paid for by my very wealthy in-laws. I'm divorced now, a long time ago. But I like my father-in-law anyway, so I won't say a word against him. But anyway, we had 220 people at the wedding, and some people had to leave before the reception, and other people came along, and it was still over 200 people in a huge marquee in the grounds of the family home, which was rented. But it was it was like a 50-room mansion, but they rented it cheaply, right? Okay. So we had this massive marquee in the garden. And I had to do the groom's speech. Guess what time of day, apart from the one glass of champagne to toast various people, guess what time of day I started drinking?
12 o'clock?
2.
11:30 p.m. That was it. Apart from my one glass of champagne, because I had my speech to do, which I have to admit was 23 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine I didn't know people do this, but when a groom is doing a speech, around the different tables, people bet on how long it's going to go on.
I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know, but they do it up there anyway, North Yorkshire, the wealthy farmers, right, and people like that. So it got to 10 minutes, and there's a friend of mine who, I can say his name actually, because he's a really nice bloke, Paul Tate, as in Tate and Lyle's Sugar, which means a lot to Cindy and nothing to anyone in Australia, but it's a huge company.
It's like Whitworth's.
Yeah, it's like his dad is Lord Saxon Tate, Paul, and he's ever so nice. And at the end, he said, "Fergus, thank you very much." I said, "Why?" He said, "I won £400. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, everybody's saying he's going to finish now at 12 minutes. I said, "No, he won't. He'll go on for at least 20. And they said, No. I did 23. He got all the money from his table, basically. But that was at, 4:30 in the afternoon. And then I had to go and meet all these hundreds of strangers and introduce myself to them. And then I had to do the groom's dance, the first dance of the wedding and everything. I was totally in performance mode all day. There's no way I could afford to drink at all, apart from my one glass of champagne for the toasting, because people think drinking makes you more relaxed and, quicker witted. It doesn't. It dulls your wit. And if you've ever drunk even one glass of wine, story I told Cindy, and this is very much relevant to speaking, right? I record books sometimes. I've recorded 28 books for the National Listening Library in England, so I think I can say I record books. Mm-hmm. And one day, I was going to the studios in Borough in London, and it was a very, very hot summer's day. And I knew I was half an hour early, and my throat was so dry. And there was a pub on the corner of the street where the studio was. So I went in there and I had 1 pint of cider. Right, we're talking cider here now. We're talking 4% alcohol, 1 pint of cider. And I went into the studio after drinking my 1 pint of cider, and normally when you record for five hours straight with a little half-hour coffee break in the middle, normally I was along with a chap called Robin Houston, who was a great newsreader in England. I don't know what he's doing now, no idea. But we were the two top for the studios for not making mistakes, okay? So that the editor, maximum, with 5 hours of recording, he'd only have to take out 200 errors. And a lot of those were the page turns, okay?
Yeah.
That particular day, I made 300.
300?
Instead of 200.
So where would have the other mistakes come from then?
That sort of thing.
Your teeth couldn't quite work.
Yeah, well, if you're reading something you've never read before, okay, you're reading something from a book. Let me just demonstrate. Okay, right. I've never read this before. Right, this is a letter from my wine suppliers, Laithwaites, who are really good. Okay, right. Your case has been dispatched and will be with you very shortly. Help us to go green by paying for your... See, I got it wrong already, right?
Right.
Help us to go green by paying for your Laithwaites recommended cases by continuous credit/debit card, and we'll send you this £5 gift voucher. Call blah, blah, blah. Please have your card details to hand. Okay? Now, I've never read that out loud, but I haven't even read it before. It's just a letter. And I didn't realise they'd give me £5 off. Oh, my God. Didn't notice that. I get so much junk mail. Oh, okay. Now, when you're reading a book in a studio, you can't read it before you read it. if you know what I mean. Let's say I'm recording War and Peace.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to go through the whole of War and Peace 3 times before I record War and Peace, because there'll be months of time out. So I've got to know how to read ahead very quickly. And I've talked about this in Blabs in the past.
Absolutely.
You read a block of about 5 words, and while you're saying those words, you're reading the next block. Ian will know all about this as well. And you can't do this if your brain is muddled at all. It's got to be super, it's like driving, drinking and driving. You know, you've got to be very alert when you're driving a car, and you've got to be very alert when you're driving your voice on stage. There's no way around it. You've got to be mega alert and completely sober.
So how long have you got to leave it then from a drinking session like that to doing then such detailed work like that?
At least 4 or 5 hours, actually.
So if somebody had went on a binge the night before, they'd gone away to a conference and they went for the evening gala, where they tend to have a little bit too much. Yeah. Is it a good idea to actually really participate, or just realise that actually if you've got a speech first thing in the morning?
Oh, yeah. You've got to stop at 9 p.m, basically.
Right.
You really have to stop at 9 p.m. If you're speaking at 9 in the morning, you stop 12 hours before, definitely, without question.
Okay.
And you don't have coffee, because otherwise you won't be able to get to sleep. But you can have a cup of tea or mint tea or Coca-Cola. Because I was at a Professional Speakers Association convention, I don't know, about 7 years ago. And I was talking with this woman all about horse riding and fox hunting and shooting and things like that until 3 in the morning. Okay. Now, I didn't have a speech to do the next day at all. So we sat there in the bar and we talked. And I had 3 glasses of red wine. Okay, while we talked for 4 hours, because everybody else had gone by 12. So we kept talking till 3. And she never joined the PSA anyway. I thought she would, but she never did. But she was great fun to talk with. The next day, I was at the convention because I was a fellow and I was a member of the board and I had to do everything right. And the person who was running everything for us said at lunchtime, "Fergus, you smelt of red wine this morning." So,
of course, then you don't think about the actual after effect where it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just just the smell. From 3 in the morning till 9 in the morning, I wasn't aware. Yeah. You don't smell yourself, do you? You don't smell your own breath.
I don't really think. Yeah, I must confess, I've never really thought of it like that. With because you do a lot of presentations as well, Ian. Do you?
I have the same realisation that the breath smells. You don't notice it, and others do, and you think, well, they don't think you're on your game. And when did you start? Tired eyes. Really shows. If you've done a long night, like let's say a 3 a.m. gala in the evening or something, then your eyes aren't as awake and open as normal. People can see the brown, what do they call it, bags under your eyes. People can see that.
Yeah, bloodshot eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you may work really hard and do an hour or two of great stuff, but people are going to be questioning how on the game are you? And that's a question you don't want asked. Even if you do pull it off, you don't want them thinking that. So really good idea to knock off at 9.
Okay.
I was on the committee of another group, okay, and I didn't have anything to do except sit there and organised everything, all the tables, all the people to be on the tables, to rent the tables and so on. I'll tell Cindy another time who that was. You must be so jealous, Ian, and other people will be, because I'm giving her all the inside secrets. Anyway, I was on the committee.
It's all right, I'll tell you in another blab later.
Yeah, it's true, it'll all come out. Anyway, I was sitting there at my table with my notebook and my pen to take notes of the speakers, and I'd organised everything, right? Absolutely everything. So I got out a tin of cider and poured it into a glass and sat there quite happy because I had nothing to do. I wasn't speaking at all, right? So I thought, oh, great, these speakers are going to be rubbish tonight. I hadn't picked them, so I'll sit there and have 1 pint of cider. And the man who'd founded this group turned to me and said, "Fergus, you can't drink here." What? Well, everybody here is so healthy. They're all organic and they don't drink alcohol. What message are you giving to them? I said, "What do you mean? It's 1 glass of cider." "Yes, but what are people going to think of us?" I was on the committee. "What are they going to think of us if you are drinking cider?" "Well, it's 1 glass of cider, mate." He said, "I don't care. It looks wrong." Oh. So, yeah, there are lots of reasons not to drink and speak, put it that way. Lots of reasons. Now, there are some very high-level people. I mentioned Ronnie Woods and Paul McCartney, but there are lots of politicians and there are lots of celebrities who can get away with it because of their celebrity status. But at the same time, they don't sound right. Oh, yeah, there's a story. I think I may have told it here before. One of my CDs, I told Cindy the other day anyway, but I'll say it very quickly because otherwise Cindy will get bored. One of my CDs I needed to record late at night and I was exhausted. And my ex-wife, we weren't even married then, she said, well, you do it and I'll get it to the studio in the morning to be duplicated. And I needed it the next day. It was February the 13th and it was a special Valentine's thing. So at 2 a.m, I sat in the chair and I thought, oh my God, I've got to record this. I'm so tired. So I listened to some really high energy music. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So, have you ever looked at somebody and thought they were beautiful and then when they spoke and they became more and more beautiful? And that sort of thing, right? Okay. So I recorded it and it was a quiet time of day. I had to do it late at night. I went to bed and I thought, no, it's not right. It should be, have you ever looked at somebody and thought they were beautiful or handsome? And when they spoke, you thought they were even more beautiful and handsome. Why do you think that is? And I hadn't done it like that. So I had to go back down and record it again because by 8 a.m, it would be very noisy in the streets with vehicles and aeroplanes. So I had to do it that night. So I went back downstairs and I drank a huge glass of red wine. And I waited 10 minutes. I mean, I necked it. I just whacked it into me, right? And then I did, have you ever seen someone and thought they were beautiful or handsome? And the more you listen to them, the more handsome or beautiful they became. That's it. I recorded the whole thing. 1 glass of red wine. Recorded the whole thing. 1 glass. But it was a big glass. It was a large glass of red wine. So, no, interestingly though, really,
so you took enough alcohol to counteract
to get rid of the
hype.
Yeah, because I'd gone too hyper. Yeah, I'd gone too hyper, basically, with the music I'd been listening to. And I went down there and I was all tense and I've got to do it again. I thought, no, I can't. I've got to calm myself down. I've got to get the adrenaline out of my system. So I had my 1 large glass of red wine. Now, I've told this story at a seminar I was running with about 70 people in the room. Every single one of them bought a copy of that disc because they had to listen to how drunk I sounded. I don't actually sound drunk, but you can tell. That's the thing. You can tell that this man has had a drink. Only if you've been told. You can't tell if you haven't been told. But once you've been told, and several people wrote to me and said, yeah, Fergus, I could tell you'd had a drink. Well, yeah, probably only because I told them, but it does affect your voice. And so you can't afford it. You really can't afford to drink and speak. It's not like drinking and driving. You just can't do it. And for an organizer, if a speaker turns up and they've been drinking, they'll think this person's drinking all the time, even if they're not. Really, even if you've just had a drink over lunch. Doesn't matter.
Yes, that is one thing that a lot of business people do is they go out at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And they think it's okay, let's have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. They should have a vodka, not a beer.
Not
a gin. Vodka and tonic or vodka and orange.
Hang on.
Sorry, Ian. What?
Go for it, Ian.
I was just commenting, and it does depend on the context. I know as a speaker, if I'm doing a presentation, in fact, Charlene and I did one, 2 days ago. It was online, so she couldn't smell my breath. But the risk of doing that with too much alcohol is too high. The flip side of that, in some of my speaking activities, is more in a workshop setting with often very small groups, like a mastermind group. And when I do that with certain groups of people, it's actually a part of the culture to have a drink while we're doing it.
Yeah.
And
that's
it's about
okay.
in the culture of that environment before you even think about it, right? If you know it, you can do it. If you know that that's go back to your organic farming world, then you shouldn't do it. But I have done it with the right audience.
Yeah, no, that you're right actually, Ian, because I was doing a presentation in Dublin about 4 years ago, okay, and it was a full day workshop, and they paid for the hotel, so I stayed there overnight, the night before and the night after, and at lunchtime, bearing in mind everybody's Irish, right, we all had a drink, and I just had a glass of cider. It was okay because it was the culture. And then I did the afternoon session, and in the evening, believe me, over dinner, I had 2 more ciders. And then late at night, about 10:30, they said, "Oh, come to the pub, Fergus, come to the pub." And I said, "Oh, no, I don't want to go to the pub. I really don't want to go to the pub." But remember, these are people who are paying me a serious amount of money for one day of training. And they paid for the flights and the hotel, 5-star hotel, and lovely meal, and lovely steak, and so on. So I had to go to the pub with them. I had to, because I want them to book me again, right? So I go to the pub with them at 10:30. I thought, it's closed in half an hour. No, Irish pubs close when the publican decides it close. So I was there till 2:30 in the morning, and I actually had 2 pints of lager. That was it, because you're on duty as a speaker. Whenever you're with a potential client, you drink you don't drink the amount they do, but if you drink with them, but you don't drink much.
No.
And drinking and presentations, drink and drive presentations, which is what I was saying. Yeah, you can't drive a presentation, you can't drive a car, you can't drive a bicycle, really, if you've had too much to drink. It's dangerous because you will make mistakes that you don't want to make, and you won't be able to catch up.
But you see, there's an awful lot of events, because again, we were talking about this before, where the event organizer will get a better deal on the venue if they have a bar, and hope that everybody actually uses the bar.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that does a lot of things, because the more people that are at the bar, the less there are actually in the auditorium listening to anybody giving a presentation. But surely with alcohol in you as well, you're not going to take as much stuff in. So whilst you're more relaxed to perhaps do business, you're going to sort of like start missing some of the elements. And more importantly, if you've got a speaker coming off the stage and you need to actually buttonhole them afterwards, you can ask them stupid questions and look like an idiot and be taken advantage of. Oh, yeah, actually, you need money for training.
Well, I've done one-to-one training where that's shown up, and it's called the graveyard shift. It's the after lunch or after dinner shift. Because after lunch, people have had a lunch with liquids. And I've trained, there was a time I was training a married couple in my own home, actually. This is, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. And I took them to a local restaurant at lunchtime, and I was paying for the food because they were paying me a lot of money, right? And they each had a couple of glasses of red wine. In the afternoon, they were nodding off. I had to shout at them to keep them awake, literally. They were on another planet, and I really had to work to keep them with me. And the after lunch shift is like that when people have been drinking. However, you will, and definitely, I know this, I've booked venues, if people are going to use the bar during lunch or during dinner, if it's an overnight or if it's a late night thing, you will get the venue cheaper because people are buying booze, basically. And they expect that. And that becomes a challenge for a speaker.
So is it better then with being a speaker? Isn't that one of the things that we need to actually ask when we're dealing with a venue? Is there going to be alcohol served at lunchtime?
Yes, definitely.
Ooh, that makes the graveyard shift even more interesting for people. How, as a speaker, do you tackle an audience, a graveyard shift that then has alcohol in them?
High energy.
Both of you.
Lots of activity.
Yeah, exactly. Ian's right. Get them to do things, right? Ask them questions which are challenging. Get them to speak up. Get them to shout.
A little workshop. Get them really working. I know one of the best feedbacks I ever got was when, due to some scheduling management issues, they thought, let's put the PR guy on straight after lunch. And lunch was a 2 o'clock sort of lunch. And I just got the sense, because I arrived during lunch, and I knew that I was after lunch, but I didn't know how much alcohol might have been around. And I got the best feedback because I just got there and realised, I'm in the after lunch session, these guys have started already, now's the time to change it. And everyone went, wow, what a great session. Because immediately it was like small group workshops, get them up, get them walking around, do the butcher's paper type thing, and I didn't plan that. That wasn't the session I would have normally done.
The what type of thing? Sorry, the what type of thing?
The butcher's paper. I think I might have said that you didn't get.
No, I've never heard of that. Butcher's paper.
You, Fergus?
No, keep going.
I'm just
explain, please.
Sorry.
We might know it's a different thing, but I've never heard of
Fergus is the one that usually starts a story with back in the old days, but back in the old days, butchers, those guys who chop up meat,
Yeah.
You can wrap your meat in perhaps some plastic if it was more recently, but beyond that, brown paper.
Yeah.
And so now the flip chart paper is often called the butcher's paper.
I didn't know that. I love that.
And now, of course, it's white and it's often got lines on it, but we often call it butcher's paper still today because it's similar to the paper.
Blimey. I've never heard that.
It's not high quality, but it's good enough to use with a whiteboard marker or an old marker in the old days. But yeah, butcher's paper. So if you're running a workshop, the butcher's paper is big, like that screen back there. On there. You clip it on, and that's your butcher's paper. So you take it off, put it on the wall, all that sort of stuff. So we call that butcher's paper in presentation.
What you're saying now, Ian, that fits. Okay, butcher's paper. I will use that, and I'll say I got it from you when I remember. It's beautiful. I love that. I call it a flip chart, mate.
We don't call it flip charts. We don't call it.
Maybe I'm older than you guys after all.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you are.
Yeah. I don't think you look older than me, Ian, but I'll pretend you are. Yeah. But one of the things, what Ian was saying about getting people involved, especially if they've been drinking at lunchtime, and I do lots of presentations in the afternoon for GKIC, which is Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. And I'm very connected to that in London. So I'll do, let's say, 2 or 3 presentations each month there. And I do it at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon after people have been there since 2 o'clock listening to other presenters. And they've just had a nice big lunch. And they're going to eat after me, right after me. They're going to go for another meal, which is in the cost of the day. And so I tend to use a flip chart, a butcher's paper, and get them doing a very, very interactive exercise or two. Because the beauty, and I'm sure you'll agree, Ian, the beauty of using the flip chart is that it's real in the moment for them, as opposed to a PowerPoint. And it makes them focus. Whereas if it's just a PowerPoint slide and you leave it up, they'll just stare at the words and they won't hear anything. And the worst thing to do is hand out paperwork to the audience halfway through or at the beginning of your presentation, because they'll sit there nodding over this piece of paper and thinking, I'm tired, I've had a nice drink at lunchtime. I'll just pretend I'm reading this piece of paper. Oh, he said something. Oh, did he? Oh, no, I'm not sure if he did say something. Okay, I'll put my head down again. Whereas if they got no paperwork to look at and you put something on the flip chart, so you get them interacting with it.
Yeah. But I like Charlene's way where she throws candy at them.
Oh, that works. John Hatauka, our great friend, did that with Molly Harvey when she was president of the Professional Speaking Association. She was in the front row, and he said, would you like a Ferrero Rocher, Molly? Do you like them? And he threw her one. And about 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, would you like another one? And everybody was waiting for the next time he'd throw her a chocolate. It was utterly brilliant, and it kept everybody locked, because every now and then there was a chocolate thrown. Now, I was doing a training for schools. I did lots of training for schools in southeast London. And I used an idea which my ex-wife had got somewhere. Whenever the child got something right, you threw them a sweet. And the teachers said, this is not a good idea. Because, of course, all the E factors and the chocolate, after half an hour or an hour of a 2-hour session, those children were hyper. You do not give chocolate to hyper children. You really don't. No. It's the worst thing you can do.
Oh, God, yes.
And so then after that, no sweeties. Another thing you can do, and I know Ian will know this, this is not totally drink related actually, but you give a reward to the audience regularly, and it can be a discount on a training series, which I do as well, or you can give somebody who gives you a very good reply a copy of one of your audio CDs to train them. That's okay. You can do that. And if the person's halfway back in the audience, even better, because then you pass it to somebody in the front row and say, can you pass this back, please, to that person, because they deserve it.
Oh, but there's many reasons why they do that as well, because they like the more interaction, isn't it? And the more that they're passing it through, the more people say, oh, what's this? Or why do they get it? And I want one. If they can have it, I can have it.
And that's called touch and feel. Actually, in the speaking industry, it's called touch and feel, because they've touched it, some of them, and they've felt it, and they've seen the cover. And then after that, even though you've just done one to somebody who's won it because they've given a good answer, everybody else is incredibly alert, because they think, oh, well, if I shout out an answer, which is good, I'll get one too. And so it makes them very alert, and it means they listen to everything you say. I went to a presentation by a friend of mine, Graham Rowan, and he's a elite investment advisor, and I've trained him a lot, and he's done speeches at the United Nations which were brilliant. And somebody said, Fergus, I can see Fergus all over it. And it was utterly brilliant, and he loved it, and he was really good. And one of the things, I went to one of his investment strategy meetings for very wealthy people, and there were about 30 of us in the room. And of course I got in free because I'd been training him. And he was talking about all sorts of things. And after about half an hour, he said, okay, who can tell me how many blah, 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 and how many blah, 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 and how many... I had all of them in notes. I won a copy of his book because nobody else had been listening tightly enough, and I was writing notes. And so he appreciated it. And for the rest of the presentation, everybody else was really listening. He didn't give them anything. But if I'd have had a drink, even as a member of the audience, I wouldn't have thought to take those notes. I wouldn't have been sharp enough. I wouldn't have been on the ball enough. And that's why, really, drinking and driving presentations, no. You can't do it. You really can't.
But then that's active listening, though.
Yeah.
And there's not many people that have active listening skills, Ian.
Stop.
Sorry, I'll tell you later, Fergus. But
Okay.
but no. So when you're talking, so alcohol for an event, whilst it helps the event organizer to get the price of the venue down, it dulls the senses. The audience starts switching off. You've got to have a special speaker that can then deal with the graveyard. And I can guarantee most organisers won't even think about the alcohol having an effect on the event. All they know is the dreaded graveyard without actually realising why it is the graveyard, and they're contributing to it.
Yeah, and remember, they've just had a meal as well. So it's not just the alcohol, they've got a stomach full of food. So all the blood goes to the stomach, really, if you've just had a big meal. And if somebody's had a nice roast lunch, so they've got lots of beef inside them and potatoes and things like that, your stomach's trying to dissolve all the food, which will take up to 4 or 5 hours to break the food down and pass it on down the chain. And also, if there's alcohol in there mixed with the food, then you've got this stuff going up into the brain. And so what they call it, a postprandial nap, don't they? After you have a meal, it's called a postprandial, as in people used to, middle class, upper class people in the 19th century would have a huge lunch, and then they'd have a sleep for about an hour, and then they go for a walk to get them ready for the next meal, basically. The people who could afford lots and lots of meals in one day, which wasn't a lot of people, but it's called a postprandial nap.
I thought it was a post-Christmas lunch nap, but that's okay.
Yeah, same thing. Well, yeah, but they did it every day, and not just on Christmas Day.
Once a year.
On the beach, not just on the beach in Sydney, right? Bondi Beach. Okay, I'll sit there and I'll have my blazing Yule log on the beach. Oh my God, it's hot. Yeah, right. Yeah, put some more prawns, shrimps on the barbie, mate.
You did have Aussie culture and chill that bit.
I need a few Fosters. Actually, from what I've heard, Ian, most Australians can't stand Fosters.
Not anymore. Back then, back in the 80s, it was popular. But once
now it's 4X, isn't it?
What is the most popular drink down in Australia?
Hard to say now. Each state has its own favourites. So
petrol.
Yeah, that's I won't say that. That's not correct. Not proper. We have a beer in Victoria that's associated with a suburb in Melbourne called Carlton. So Carlton Draft is probably the most popular drink here because we're very parochial. We like drinking stuff that comes from our state. And Queensland, unfortunately, has a beer called 4X. And it's unpopular, unfortunate, because it's also a brand of personal hygiene product. But in Queensland, they loved that beer in the 80s and 90s. And Sydney, now we've got a lot more cosmopolitan because Australia's full of immigrants, including the first white people are immigrants, really. Yeah. So we just have a lot of foreign beers like Corona. Oh, no, I wasn't drinking it. Like Corona. What else? We have a whole bunch of beers now that take over. But wine's huge, of course, because Australia's one of the best wine growing countries in the world. I do drink a lot of Australian wine, actually.
I love Hardy stuff.
Oh, yeah, I get lots of Hardys. Laithwaite's supply Hardys as well. Because I buy by the crate No, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? No, I've got a special deal.
That's just the day's supply.
Right. That's per day, yeah. No, what Laithwaites do, they send you 12 bottles, and you speak to them, and you get a really good deal for 12 bottles. And so I get a box, basically, regularly. And stand it in my hallway. And so if I'm going to see a girlfriend, I'll take 1 or 2 bottles with me. So I've got some nice wine, as opposed to going to the supermarket and buying it. I know it's really good, top quality wine. Talking about drinking and speaking, which is the center of it all. I did, I think I mentioned this one before. I've certainly talked to Cindy about it, because I keep saying everything to Cindy, so she's going to get bored now. I did an auction, right, for Macmillan nurses, which is a fantastic thing. They go in and they help people who are dying, basically. They're hospice nurses, and they are amazing people. And I did it for a major bank on the day before. These 200 people got their annual bonus, right? And I didn't get to start my auction. I was the MC as well, Master of Ceremonies, for people who don't know what MC is. I was the Master of Ceremonies for the event, plus I did an auction. Now, 10:15, the auction started. I would have liked to start it earlier, but never mind. They'd all had a big meal. They knew they were getting the annual bonus the next day, and they all wanted to show off. And somebody said, it was to one side, somebody said, John, go on. Probably wasn't John, I can't remember his name. Go on, bid. He said, okay, I'll bid £800. I said, okay, so there's a bid over there, it's £800. He said, what's it for? I said, well, actually, it's for one of Wayne Rooney's shirts, who's quite a well-known footballer here. He went, yeah, okay, fine. In the end, it went for 1,100. I actually raised, during my auction, I have to say, it wasn't me, because they were all drunk. I raised 27,000 that night for Macmillan nurses.
Wow.
Now that's pretty good. They had a blind auction going on as well, but I got them excited, and they'd been drinking so much I could insult them, which I did, roundly, regularly. Oh, come on, you can't let him win. Come on. If you love your wife, you need to buy that, because she's sitting right next to you. You can't let him over there buy that, because otherwise she won't love you anymore. It worked. But is
that because you actually used the alcohol to your effect?
Yes, I did.
To your advantage?
And it worked really well. I mean, it's the biggest auction I've ever done. 27 grand, I think that's pretty good. I know some of it was from the blind auction, but there was another thing. We had one of the Macmillan nurses do a fantastic speech, totally deadpan, standing there holding one of my microphones, and she just talked about helping somebody to pass, right? It was absolutely mind-blowing. It was like, oh my God, I was crying, right? So I got back on the stage afterwards. I said, do you realize, everybody, there's an envelope on your table, and there's 12 of you round the table. If each one of you put £3 in, that's 12 times 3 is 30 hours of Macmillan nurses for somebody who's passing out now, passing on. Every envelope got full, literally. That was an extra £7,000.
Right.
And it was partly because she was so wonderful, but also because they'd already started drinking. And then the main auction came after that, when they were really roaring, and they just bid for everything. No. They really went berserk. But you can use it against them. What? Go on.
I was going to say, here's a question, because what you have done is you've provoked a highly emotional state. Was the alcohol actually, doesn't that give you part of an emotional state, or gives access to that emotional state more?
It depends. I'm sure Ian will agree. It depends on what the topic is. If you're talking about spreadsheets, no. If you're talking about people dying, yes.
But they say if you actually want to make your speech stick, and I've heard both of you guys say this, make it emotional, give it an emotional anchor.
Absolutely.
Give it some, put back in. Give it some feeling.
Yeah. Every speech has got to be based on emotion. You've got to get the emotion of every member of your audience, if you can. You won't get all of them, but you've got to do your best to connect. I know Ian's just going to nod in a second and agree. You've got to connect with the emotional center of your member of the audience. Every one of them, if you can.
So surely then it's better in my interest then that I am actually with an event organizer that does supply everyone with some alcohol at lunchtime, like even if it's just half a glass.
Okay, one
before
glass.
I go on the graveyard, as it were.
Yeah. I bet I know Ian does as well. A lot of speakers refuse to do graveyard shifts. They refuse to do after dinners. They just refuse.
Oh, I know quite a few can't do after dinners. It's a case of they refuse because they can't do it.
They're terrified of it, basically. I did an after dinner for a major engine manufacturer, and it was 220 sales teams leaders from all over the world.
Oh,
I'm not going to name the company, but they paid me very well for that speech. And it was the I don't know what he was. The managing director had just done this incredibly boring speech before me. And I thought, I'm not going to go on yet. Let's eat the food first. And I said to the man who'd booked me, I'll do my speech after we've eaten. Okay. So everybody ate their dinner. I then got up and used my PowerPoint. They'd all had 1 or 2 glasses of wine. And I laid into them in a very good way because they'd had 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but not too late. Yeah. If you go too late, they'll be dead.
So
there's a happy medium, and I think to your question, Cindy, about the emotional state you're trying to access, it depends on the theme that you're trying to create.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want people to have the party atmosphere or the dark atmosphere, alcohol helps. If you're after more the atmosphere of, let's just say, life-changing movement, it's not going to work. People aren't in a mode to see the possibilities in things because their imagination's stilted. It's held back, and they won't imagine good creative outcomes when they're addled with alcohol.
Okay, so it's coming back down to the event organizer. If they're going to start throwing alcohol into the mix with the venue, they should actually start telling speakers and say there's going to be alcohol at lunchtime.
Yeah, it depends on, as Ian's saying, it depends on the topic. It massively depends on the topic.
If it's spreadsheets, they might need the alcohol.
No, really no, because you can't do fun interactive with a bunch of lawyers. Sorry, not lawyers, financiers. I've worked very well with lawyers. They're great. They listen, they get up, they laugh, they joke, they dance, they do voice exercises. They go, oh my God, this was fun. And dentists do a bit, but they're a bit shy. Dentists are a bit shy. But finance people, I did one of my favorite presentations to 3 finance people over Skype. It died. It totally died because they just wouldn't learn. Well, one of them was the boss, and there were 2 people who worked under the boss, and I couldn't, excuse me, I couldn't really go for her to get her to do some exercises. So I had to do the junior people, and she was being very stiff, and they were being very frightened of her. It didn't work. It really didn't work at all. Now, if they'd all been drinking, maybe.
That surprises me because most finance people I know is that once they're sort of like away from the work environment, that's it. It's hair down and...
Yeah, but it was during the day, you see. So it was during work hours. And she was the owner of the company, and it was her 2 most senior people. And they were all a bit shy, and I couldn't get her to do any of the exercises. And they were finance people tend to be very focused on numbers, like left brain, massively left brain focused. And you can get away with it. I trained the head of a very, very large company, the head of finance for a very large company in England, because he had to make a speech. 2 people retiring after 40 years each, and he didn't know how to fill 15 minutes, Ian. Can you imagine that? So you've got 80 years of history of 2 people, and he didn't know. He said, oh, it's a long time, isn't it? 15 minutes. How can I fill...
I didn't speak to them.
Yeah. How can I fill 15 minutes? Well, how about talking to me about them? Tell me about, I don't know all that much. Well, okay, what do you know? And our first 2-hour sessions was me taking notes about what he knew about those 2 people. And then in the end, at their retirement party, he was great. He was fantastic. He did have to use little cards, unfortunately. But believe me, he was sober.
So when it comes to after dinner, you have actually made a very, very good point. After dinner, most people are frightened by that. I will say I'm frightened by that. I don't know about you, Ian, if you've done one or not.
I've done it. It's a challenge. You don't know where you're up for.
The only people I know from when I've organised events is I go after comedians because they're almost like kind of safe bets. Because there's the graveyard, but then after dinner, how and what are the tricks, or what should you do? Or because if it is dinner and there's alcohol and everything else, I mean, how do you cope with that?
What's really interesting is that a lot of event organisers aren't professional event organisers. They don't do it enough to know what goes on, like you're saying, right? Event organisers should know this. The reality is that a lot of event organisers, they've done it 1, 2, 3 times. Yes. They're not professionals, they haven't seen it. And when they look at that time of the day, the whole time of the day, all they're thinking about is how do I get 12 speakers through this time?
Yeah.
And they're not thinking about what are the energy levels through the day, what is this after dinner speech spot about, and they often haven't even spoken to the speaker who is the after dinner speaker about how that's going to go down.
Yeah.
Is it an after dinner speech? Do they know what that word means? And they're usually a very different speech to any other that's done through the day.
Yes.
That's the first thing. You've got to know what an after dinner speech is. Your turn, Fergus, then I'll have another go.
Okay, no, you're right, Ian. I know a lot of speakers who won't touch after dinner, and there's one I'm thinking of, and I will name him because he gets stuff from everywhere, and so do I, and he's become a really good friend, Peter Thompson, okay? And he's a really, really good business speaker. He's an amazingly good business speaker. And you've got to be sober to listen to his stuff, and it's really deep in content. He's very clever. He goes just before lunch, basically. He's the last speaker before lunch, because he knows that during the lunch break, a lot of people will buy lots of his programs, right, and his discs and his books and so on. I can't see him doing after dinner. Maybe he does, but I can't see him doing it. Whereas another friend of mine and Cindy's, Graham Davis, he's utterly brilliant at after dinner because he lays into the audience like you would not believe.
I've never seen him do after dinner, and he would have been the last person I would have picked. For you, Ian, Graham is a internet psychologist, is how he kind of classed himself.
Graham Davies, not Graham Jones.
Oh, the other Graham.
No, the other Graham. No, not Graham Jones. No, Graham Jones couldn't do it. Graham Jones couldn't do it. I don't think, anyway.
Right.
Graham Davies can do it brilliantly because he's a comedian. He comes out with sexist comments. He comes out with outrageous comments, and he blows the audience away by making them laugh. And at the same time as making them laugh, he's giving them content. And the thing about Graham Davies, he's not afraid. He used to be a barrister, and he's so full on. And it's like Nigel, who I'm always talking about, our friend Nigel Risner, he would kick people after dinner. I don't know if he does do after dinner, but if he did, he'd be good at it. And so you've got to choose what Ian's just been saying, which speaker for which time of day. I can do after dinner. It's not a problem. I love it. It's a challenge for me, and I like going into the audience either physically or at least verbally and getting them to do stuff. I was doing this for this large company. Okay, so I said, sir, I didn't know, actually. This was the boss of the man who booked me, but I didn't know that, and he was in the audience. And I said, okay, have I got a volunteer? They said, go on, Simon. Right, so he came up on stage. I said, okay, Simon. And this was after dinner, remember? And I said, his name's not Simon, it's Peter. Right? And I said, oh, great, biblical reference, Simon called Peter. I think I'll keep on calling him Simon or Peter, depending on how I feel. That was it, I had them. 220 of them. They thought, oh my God, this is fun. And one of them was trying to mock me by I can't remember which name it was, his real name, whether it was Simon or Peter, but I just played with it. So it's Simon called Peter or Peter called Simon. Let's get biblical. That was it. I had them all. They thought, oh my God. And so you've got to be prepared to do that always with an audience after dinner or after lunch. And you've got to know, I know Ian will agree with me here, you've got to know who the audience is. And you just said, Cindy, quite rightly, hello, Hilary, great to see you. What Cindy just said so perfectly is that the event organisers quite often, and Ian said it as well, they haven't necessarily been organising events for very long, and they just slot in speakers by numbers. And they don't think about what that speaker speaks on for the right time of day. And if it will fit with the after lunch drinks or the after dinner drinks, they just line them up and stick them in front of the audience. No, absolute disaster. It's random, isn't it?
Or Hilary jumps in just to help you segue that thought. I organised a keynote speaker for an event about a year ago, and so I knew people and had to fill a spot quickly, and I found somebody who is a professional speaker, but he speaks about military topics in an amazing way. And I connected him with the conference organizer, the bigwig, and they were talking about, I can do an after dinner speech, and he can, he's brilliant at it. But the organizer didn't understand the context of what an after dinner speech was. So the expectations did not match. I was being asked to go on stage because he doesn't get it. I said, actually, you don't get it. He's doing an after dinner speech, hardest gig of the day. He's doing this because, and I went, oh, really? No idea. And that just happens.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We're talking about, Hilary, where event organisers organised venues that sell alcohol at lunchtime or in the evening, and how that affects us as speakers from all aspects, not just our voice, but our presentation skills to managing a room for the drunk people.
Yeah. It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? You know, it's funny you're talking about after dinner speaking. I've actually just doing some stand-up comedy as separate as a hobby, and I'm actually going to be doing my first after dinner speech. It was booked in July and it's in March, and it's a Rotary after dinner award speech. And I've never done it. It's the one kind of, if you say like big events like thousands, all that sort of stuff, it's the one I haven't done. And so
brilliant.
I was picking up on the after dinner, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be quite interesting.
No, Hillary.
These two perfect people are the best. I mean, I've got so much experience. I build so much of professional speaking, but it's the after dinner thing, and like what you're saying about the alcohol.
No, stop. Hillary, stop. You've missed a lot of this. Stop, Hillary, stop. If you've been doing stand-up, you'll be fantastic at drunken after-dinner people. Wonderful. You'll be fantastic with them, really.
Oh, no, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't written it yet because it's not until March, so I don't have to worry about that. But look, folks, let me explain. I had to host an awards ceremony, and I couldn't do the original opening. So a week before I was supposed to open it, I learnt sword swallowing and did magic tricks in relation to a business talk. I can blag anything of that. But it was interesting hearing you talking about the wrong person for an after dinner talk. And I was sitting there in the chat room and I was thinking, no, I can do that. I can be that person. But yeah, with the alcohol.
Can you see my shirt? Can you see my shirt?
No.
I'm wearing the right shirt. Hang on. No. Hang on.
Bushy Mills. Yeah, Bush Mills.
What's that?
Oops. Yeah.
Bush Mills. Can't read underneath it.
Okay. Irish whiskey.
Okay.
And I was worried about my slab of beer in the background before.
I just said you should have left it.
I'm not having a drink. I'm just wearing the shirt, basically. I'm wearing the T-shirt.
I'm drinking champagne, but I don't have a champagne glass handy, so I'm actually drinking it from a wine glass. But there's bubbles in there.
That's all right.
Because we're doing this, and I know Fergus would actually tell me off. I've got tea. I'm being good girl.
Hold on, Cindy.
I've got a mug just like that, which came with my new coffee maker.
We don't know what's in it, though, do we? I'm drinking tea. It could be like vodka.
Actually, I will tell you a little thing. Is that when I used to do Viking reenacting, when I first met hubby, because he was into doing Viking reenacting, I went along to the shows and joined in. But my way of coping was, how could I sneak alcohol into the show whilst public were around, because it was a big taboo, a big no-no.
Okay.
And I would actually have Baileys in a little wooden cup, because that was my herbal infusion.
Baileys, bless you. Baileys, 1% alcohol.
And I've had Pimm's in a little wooden cup as well, because that was my herbal infusion as well.
Nice.
And as far as the wine was concerned, it was sort of like, that was a bit more tricky, but I could just about get away with it. So I did have alcohol on Legoland. I have actually managed to walk around.
Oh, Legoland with alcohol. No, that's good. That's good.
Dressed up as a Viking. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Respect. Yeah, respect, mate. Respect.
Okay. Hang on. Isn't it?
Talking about drinking and performance. Yeah, hang on. I have to time this. Right, there's my fist. Okay.
There you go.
That worked. Yeah.
There you go.
Speaking about drinking and performance, years ago, I used to do fox hunting. Right? I never saw fox, really, but there'd be about 60 of us going across the fields on our horses, and it was fantastic, all together, 60 or 80 of us. And at the beginning of the meet, it's called a meet when everybody gets together. Mm-hmm. And somebody walks around, you have to pay, you're paying your monthly fee, your annual fee, sorry, but you also pay each time you go, about £80 each time you go on a hunt. And you have a treasurer who takes the money in. And therefore, they can afford for somebody to walk around with trays with fruitcake and whiskey, basically. And so you'll have 2 or 3, they call it stirrup cups. It's not a stirrup cup, it's a glass of whiskey, right? You'll have 2 or 3 of those, and you'll have a hit flask, right? And that's it. Probably of slow gin or something like that. It might be whiskey, but it's usually slow gin. And you ride around for 5 hours in very cold weather in the middle of the winter, and you hand somebody your flask, and they can have a swig of your flask and you have a swig of their flask, but you've got to be careful not to get drunk, because sometimes you'll be doing lots and lots of jumping on your horse, and sometimes what they're called drop jumps, as in you jump downhill, which I find terrifying, drop jumps. And if you're not alert and you're not sober enough, you will fall off and you will die, basically. So you've got to be very alert. So you don't have much, really. You can't. And when you go shooting, shooting in the wild, driven game shooting, right? At 11 o'clock in the morning, out comes some cakes and some drinks.
Yeah.
But you remember, you've got a gun. You can kill people. And if you have more than 1 or 2 drinks, you won't be able to shoot the birds, but you might fall over and shoot yourself. So again, you've got to be very, very disciplined. And it's the same with speaking, that if you're doing something which is a dangerous situation, and speaking in a way is a dangerous situation, nobody's going to shoot you.
No, but it can cost you a multi-million-pound company.
Yes, it can. It can.
And we've seen a couple of those happen.
Have you? Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Cindy?
Everyone knows. Pardon?
What do you mean by that it can cost you a multi-million-pound company?
Gerald Ratner?
Okay, no, that's cool. I just wanted to reference it in my little head.
And there's, and I've just forgotten the other guy's name, but...
Bless him. I can't... I've spoken to Gerald Ratner.
He's a lovely chap.
He spoke at the
really nice.
IOD Kent black tie last year. He went down an absolute storm. He was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
He's really nice. I talked to him on the phone, and I've read and watched all the interviews with him. And as he said, when he did this, the stuff we sell is the same price as a prawn cocktail. And it was to a private dinner. Now, actually, this is very important. Actually, it was an after-dinner speech, right? And someone said to him, "Go on, be funny, Gerald. Go on, do something funny. Do something a bit outrageous." And the audience loved it when he said, "Let's face it, a lot of the jewellery sell is about the same price as the prawn cocktail you've just had over dinner." They all roared with laughter because they enjoyed
it. Was in context.
Yeah, it was totally in context.
When it's written down and blown out of proportion.
One reporter stuck it into the newspaper. The whole company failed, and it was a huge multi-million company. It crashed badly, and it really, it was twisted. Yeah, it was absolute fortune, and it wasn't fair to him. It really wasn't, because he'd taken that company from nothing and built it up huge, and his company was destroyed. I'm not saying he'd been drinking. I don't think he had, because he's a very focused, organised man. But he had a drunk audience in front of him. It was an after-dinner audience, and they G'd him up. And they got him all happy, and he made a slip up because they'd been drinking, the people in the audience. And he thought, oh, this is private. When you're in professional speaking mode, nothing is private.
No. And then you've got, because we had the problem with F.W. de Klerk. We shipped him over as a bureau.
Yeah.
He was in a room of consultants, and it was supposed to be off record, closed and private, and even on the contract. But somehow they managed to let press in. And it appeared in the papers, F.W. de Klerk announces to consultants his thoughts. So it is actually important as to who's in the audience. But on that occasion, there wasn't alcohol, but it was the duty of care of the conference provider to actually be honest with who was going to be there.
Yes, definitely. And to warn him. He did make the mistake, because he obviously thought, just like Ratner did, that some things are off record. Nothing is ever off record for a speaker, which is why you can't drink as a speaker. You really can't. You can't risk it.
But then you've got the other side of the coin, where comedians do bomb whilst they're on stage after dinner, even though they've been told. Classic case of people like Jim Davidson. Now, he's a comedian over here who's a bit risque, a bit blue. His time was the 70s and the early 80s, where anything went. Nowadays, he's all very PC, because half his jokes are about different coloured people, giving them names, etc., etc. And the same with Bernard Manning?
Bernard Manning, yeah.
And they get slated now. And there have been times when comedians of that ilk going on stage, and they actually get pulled off halfway and stopped halfway through their set. Yeah.
And also, you saying that, Cindy, it's very important that you've got to think of the, if you like, the context of the era, okay? And this is a thing Nigel Risner says. Like, he's thrown a lot of his CDs away, which are about 8 years old, because they're out of date now. But if you think of Bernard Manning's humour in the late 60s, early 70s, right, it is totally inappropriate nowadays for people to use humour, the racist, sexist, horrible, anti-gay stuff that he used to do. I never found it funny even then, to be honest. I just thought it was stupid. But it's really offensive now. Now, a black person, as a speaker, can say nigger or negro, but no one else can. I can do jokes against the Irish because I'm Irish, okay? Nobody else can. If you're not Irish, you can't joke about the Irish. I can't joke about Australians. Ian can, easily, but I can't, because although my mother lived there for 15 years, you know, I can't joke about my Australian friends because it won't work, because I don't have the right.
Well, in that case, then, I'm covered because I'm English, Irish and Scots.
Yeah, I've got the Irish passport and the English passport. So. You're drunk.
No. I've been driving train today. I've been driving the HS1 from Ebbsfleet to Stratford today.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
All right, the simulator at the training department, but I'm still driving it. You can see there's a picture on my Twitter. Check my Twitter. There's the picture of me at the, in the simulator. Sorry, I don't.
Brilliant.
Is that why we're celebrating with champagne?
No, Cindy, this is normal. I'm actually I'm going through a massive restructuring in my company, and some things got signed today and stuff, and there's lots of stuff happening. But yeah, the champagne is easy for me. Okay, Ian's already been on Twitter. Now this was cool. He's already seen the picture of me on the HS1.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is quite normal for me, the fizz, Cindy. I work. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I've been working very, very hard.
Whoa.
I say working hard, Fergus. I mean, I've been having fun all day. There is a difference. And yeah.
To well done. I will change that for the better stuff when I get in.
You know, I told you, Cindy, didn't I, that I'm standing for the chairman of the Institute of Directors, Kent branch, and I've had my interview date come through, and I've got a really good chance of getting it. And I was in a meeting today that it was like, I have the backing of a lot of these serious business leaders, and it's very grown up. And I'm a cheeky little fucker. You put a cheeky little fucker in a position like that, it can only help other people progress. Get in.
Okay, no. Hillary, that means I've got to crawl to you.
No, you don't. No, please don't.
No, I wasn't doing real crawling.
Oh, fuck for that.
I'm going to do real crawling. No. God. No.
Should we get alive first?
I spoke for IOD West Yorkshire years ago, right? I ended up in the following year and a half getting 20 grand from clients from the room. Okay,
the IOD audience, this is why when I say I bill quite a lot for speaking and stuff, you know, I'm not making it up. You know, I've been on the board for the IOD Kent for the last year, and the joking aside, that is the blab character and stuff. There's so much going on, and to actually be in a position to get the chairmanship, you know, that'll get announced in March. If I get it, he's going to have some fun.
A friend of mine was on the council of the IOD. The council is above the board of directors. They are the ones in charge, the council. And he lived in Yorkshire, and he was my lodger for 2 years in Yorkshire.
And he's become.
No. I had 4 bedrooms, and he had one with his girlfriend, and I had another one on my own, and my daughter had a bedroom there, and we had a spare bedroom. Right?
No, I am joking.
Okay. But he didn't get me a single gig with the IOD, even though I'd already spoken for the IOD.
Okay, let me tell you what I've just done for someone. Yeah. We run directors' briefings that are, Ian, I don't know what you have in Australia. We have CPD development, which is continuing professional development. I got a guy, I'm actually setting up an LLP, which is a limited liability partnership. I've got a training company, he's got a training company, we're amalgamating them. The audience, he's now on their speakers list, and I think that's probably already brought in about 45k to our LLP in the last 6 weeks.
Cool.
So brilliant. I know I'm a joker and stuff like that, but you know, the business that I do, when I speak about what we're growing and what we're developing, I'm not talking rubbish. You know, we've got it backed up, and that's pretty brought him up to, he wanted to get to a certain audience, and I've been able to provide that audience, and he's nailed it. He nailed it, not me. I just provided that route to market, and he's nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is pretty cool. And if I get chairman, it means I have to mix with the chairmans of Sussex, Surrey, Kent, East Sussex, London, and it's all that. So the whole network goes massively. And Ian, you know my American new business partner, Melanie Lane, RD Sales Training, because of Blab, and you've met her, haven't you, Cindy? I've now got an American business that is being fed by some of my IOD contacts in Kent. So, you know, it's pretty cool.
Ooh. Well, I'll have to have a chat on with you. I've got to get on the bandwagon.
I messaged you on Twitter. Actually, I messaged you on Twitter and you didn't respond. So this is what I do. Ready?
You did. Actually, joking aside, I look at it, I saw it, and I was going, now is this an automated message?
No.
Because it's the first one I've had from you. So I was actually going to pull your bluff next week. It's down in my diary to actually call you on Wednesday just to see if
I don't do
automated or not.
And did I give you my phone number? I gave you my phone number. I certainly don't do that. Even if I did automate it, I wouldn't.
Exactly. I mean, this is one I thought I'll call. So it's actually in my diary to give you a call on Wednesday. I don't know why Wednesday, but I decided the 23rd sounds like a good day. I'll do it on the 23rd.
23rd, yeah, that's cool. I'll be drunk. It'll be fine.
What I actually say to people, drunk or sober, if they're saying they want to be a speaker and they want to go out to speak, and I say, okay, well, there's Pony Express, which is great, right? And there's GTEx for training speakers, right? Both of those. And you know Adil, Cindy, and I've told him to go to GTEx and to go to Pony Express to get some films made of him speaking. And the next level up is IOD, not PSA, because I'm not being horrible about the Professional Speaking Association, but you will not get a very excited audience there. IOD, you get a quality audience, definitely. And I've been to events at IOD in Pall Mall, and it's like quality. It really is top quality IOD. So if you get the presidency, oh my God, Hillary, well done.
It's a whole new world, you know. I have to say, folks, I've worked really hard to even be within a chance of getting it.
Yeah.
But the IOD has opened so many doors that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
What I can actually attribute my bottom line to from the IOD connections is ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is because a lot of people, I mean, Ian, I met in my first week on Blab. I've been on 70 something days, you know, so only talking 2.5 months. Cindy, I met you early on.
Yeah.
I have no problem sitting on a Blab and going, oh, I like a fucking beer. I wouldn't say necessarily that, but I have no problem with being me on Blab, but while being that position within the IOD, because this is what they need. They need some gumption within it, but I respect the IOD and what it stands for. And do you know what? Those doors that open. All right, let me give you an example. This is really weird. I had afternoon tea, and I don't drink tea, with an ex-High Sheriff Lieutenant something of Kent. She's adorable. She's 74. We spoke at the same event. There were 4 speakers. She was first. The middle 2 were painfully awful, and I was camp as tits. We fell in love, and I went to her house for tea. She is probably the most influential woman in Kent, and is adorable without an ego. And I told her of my chairmanship plans, and she went, you just knew she wanted me to get it, because I knew when I told her if she didn't want me to get it, she might have been able to influence it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just such an amazing world, and normal people, which I'm bringing into the IOD, are having the IOD exposure, which is important, because not everyone is brilliant at their game now, but in 2 years they may be. So we're bringing people in, and what I do is I'm on the board at the moment, so I invite people as my guests. Now, Fergus, if I emailed you and said, Fergus, would you like to come as my guest to drive a high-speed 1 rail train, right, for example?
Yeah, I'm not exactly going to refuse, am I? Let's face it.
No.
It's not going to happen. No.
And that's what I've been doing over the last year, is building up my own offline network that's actually really quite a powerhouse. But I only actually have drinks with them if they're really nice, because if they're not, I don't want to do it. I'll do that over work time. But...
Yeah, no, I understand that one. There's some people that you don't want to take them into that next level, as it were.
No.
Hillary, okay, Ian, speak to you soon. It's great having you in here.
Nice to see you again. Haven't seen him for so long.
No, he's been a little bit down as well.
Hillary, I want to talk with you on the phone.
Oh, do
really? Yes, I do, darling.
Maybe you'll be a bit quicker than Cindy, that's taken like 4,432 days to get in touch.
No, it has not. Actually, I will also say, because I haven't been on Blab for about 2 weeks now, because
that was Twitter, darling, and I don't normally give my phone number away, which is how I knew it was like, oh my god, I'd actually gave that was because of a Blab conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I give mine to everyone. So
no. I'm just saying I actually haven't been on Blab for about 2 weeks because I've had my head down. But it also means that I haven't been doing much on the. I actually haven't been able to do much on the internet. Full stop.
I'm going to put Fergus in my phone now, and I. Fergus, what's your surname?
Oh, he's even worse on Twitter.
McClelland. I'm so easy to find, really. I'm all over YouTube as well. And when I go on dating sites,
website working,
and it's being moved today.
Yeah,
really. Finally, I'm getting my domain back.
6 months.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? It says this has been suspended. This account is suspended. No, the company's crashed, and it's stuck with them. And so I spoke to One-on-One today, and they said, well, if you pay us, you can have 30 days free, and we'll get it back for you. Okay, get it back for me. During my 30 days free, just get my domain back, please. And then I can do whatever I want with it. And so I've got to speak to another 0800 number tomorrow to get that sorted, which I will.
Best of luck.
I'm just texting you, Fergus, so then you've got my number.
Okay.
Right.
Brilliant.
Well, in that case, what you just in that case then, as I said, I did get your tweet, hence why I'm able to say my experience of it, so I haven't forgotten you.
I can't remember what it was about now, Cindy. I know we had a conversation, and I know we should speak, and I wanted to find out more about iwanttospeaker.com from people I have coming up through my please don't take this that it's pretentious, but my ranks and people that we're not coaching, because I'm not a coach, but that we're seeing come up through, and I just thought it'd be something that maybe some of them would be interested in. And don't forget, I'm an editor of a magazine, which is it's got quite a massive impact as well. So I think I was probably fishing for some stuff.
No, well, this is one of the reasons why I thought if we do it on Wednesday, because it's one of those days which is far enough away from Christmas for people to still be working, but far enough away from work to have time to actually have a chat.
I'm working the way through because I'm on magazine deadline over Christmas. But on the Wednesday 23rd, I'll tell you what. Do you want to know what I've got in my diary, which is really unusual?
What?
Nothing. That's really cool. And this is, I've only got until the 31st of December to manage my own diary. As of the 1st of January, I don't manage my own diary anymore.
Oh wow!
And so I'm still in control.
There you go.
Okay.
In that case, then I will call you at 10 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay, I'm going to put that in, so I'll make sure I'm up.
I can't do afternoon. I've already got some at 2 o'clock, I think. Yeah,
okay.
Okay, I just know I need to speak to Hillary at some point. Cindy will confess and admit that I talk to her all the time, and we talk for hours and hours and hours. And some of it is relevant to business, and some of it is just gossip, basically. Her gossip and my gossip. But Hillary... I want to do the same thing with you, really. Just find out how we can help each other, or not, or just become friends. That's all.
You won't know unless you have a chat.
No, I agree.
I'm up for that.
And I've got your phone number, and I've texted you back. Yeah, gotcha.
I gotcha. Right. I got it.
Gotcha. So to round up on the,
we'll just round up on the drink
driving presentation.
Drinking
driving.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll just fit. I'll tell you what. We'll just do a quick wrap up, and then we'll
I'll jump off and you do the wrap up.
No, don't worry.
No, don't leave.
No,
do not leave.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Not allowed to leave. Not until you're drunk.
What if I need a toilet break?
You'll be quick.
Well, we'll notice that you've gone and come back, and I've probably got to have one of those soon anyway. Anyway.
No, we're going to wrap up anyway. We've been on for
the focus on the recording is about speaking and driving a presentation, whether you're the event organizer or the speaker. And basically, my thing was, my test expression is Piccadilly line, Okay? If I can't say that, I've had too much to drink to speak. I can do tongue twisters, whatever, but I've found I can't say Piccadilly line, if I've been drinking too much. So that's my test.
I like that.
Yeah, well, my test is a joke.
Oh, I'm really sorry, I have to go. I've got my Skype call from America.
Okay,
I will
go.
speak to you both.
Cheers.
Yeah, you will.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, babe. Bye, Hillary.
Well, funny enough,
Okay.
my test
Yeah.
is when I want to tell a particular joke.
Okay.
The joke is not funny,
But
but there is a
good
point
test.
when
Yeah.
alcohol kicks in that suddenly I think that I need to tell this joke because it's so appropriate and so funny.
Yeah.
But I know it's not. So it's like, okay, now I know that I want to tell that. Now's the time to lay off the alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. If I want to tell that joke, I shouldn't be drinking. And for a lot of speakers, I would say, if you think you need to tell a joke, get off the stage. It's the unless you're a stand-up.
People have been told that they have to do a joke.
I know, and they're told to open with a joke, and I've seen them do it, and it's a killer. Hillary does stand-up, right? Hillary does stand-up, so she can get away with it because she's obviously stand-up comedy. I watch all the stand-up comedy live at the Apollo. Russell Kane is one of my favourites. Adam Hills, Australian, is one of my favourites. Michael Whatsit is one of my favourites. Mickey Flanagan is one of my favourites. Jack D, funnily enough, who is very deadpan. He swears a lot, and he's extremely funny. And his speaking career was, he was speaking to a bunch of drunks one evening, and he was a very polite man at the time, and they weren't laughing, and he had a go at them, and he swore over and over, and they laughed their heads off. And that's why he changed his complete career to really attacking the audience and swearing at them a lot. And
Right.
it works for him. I've
Yes.
never sworn in a presentation, and I never will, because it doesn't fit with my personality. But he had a lot of drunk people in a room one night who weren't laughing at him, so he went for them with swearing, and they just loved it. You bunch of blah, 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 blah. And they just thought it's so funny.
Absolutely, but then that's how Les Dawson started as well, though.
Is it? Okay.
Well, he was
Okay,
dying
the
on
clubs,
stage,
the
so he
clubs,
started
yeah.
having a go at them as well.
Oh, okay. Same thing then, yeah.
So that
Yeah.
kind of thing too. It just happens and it just works for some people. But
Yeah.
I think long kind of blab short.
Yeah.
I would say the thing with alcohol is just respect it
Yeah.
and actually have it as part of your factor
Yeah.
when doing a speaking or a presentation
Yeah.
or running an event, that it does and can have more of an impact that you really want it. So
Good or
unless you
bad.
actually,
Good or bad. Yeah.
yeah,
It
as
can
long as you actually
devastate
plan
you.
for it,
Yeah.
it can actually really help you.
And the event, yes, definitely. The event organisers have a duty to let the speakers know. Well, the speakers should know anyway what time of day they're speaking. They'll have a good idea of, like, if it's just after lunch or just after dinner, they will know those people have been drinking. But the speaker, if they're suddenly told you're speaking for this huge convention, oh, lovely, yes, I will, and they don't know what time they're speaking. And so they prepare a presentation that would work perfectly at 10 in the morning. It will not work at 2 in the afternoon. And so they've got to know from the event organizer what time of day they're speaking, because then they can aim it at people who've been drinking or even have a drink themselves and join in with the audience. But I would say if you're speaking, don't have more than one drink at lunch. Don't have more than one drink over dinner. If you do, you risk crashing badly as a speaker, and the event organizers will think you're unprofessional.
And stop drinking at 9 o'clock if you've got to do a
Yeah,
presentation
the night
first thing in
before.
the morning.
Definitely, absolutely. 12-hour gap. You need a 12-hour gap.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much for that summary.
My pleasure.
And lovely chatting to you again this week, and look forward to chatting to you next week.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this one. Have a good one next week as well.
Well, we've got a couple. Well, actually, we might have a bit of a break, but I know we've got some good ones to also set up for early 2016. But
Yep.
anyway, we will talk about that later.
Okay. Everybody, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.